Alright folks, today's Saturday, November 17th. It's 8 a.m. It's about 60 degrees. And we got this whole car masked off last night. Just kind of threw something in the trunk just to keep the dust down. I mean, I'm not worried about overspray inside the trunk. I just did that just to keep the dust. Wrap that to keep the dust. Wrap the floor pans, keep the dust down again. Stuff newspaper in the cowl, keep the dust down. Just kind of stuff something in the dash there. Stuff the gas tank cap or a door. Completely masked off under the floor pan. Put a ceiling, plastic sheet ceiling. It's to collect the overspray as it rises. Works real good for me. The only downside to this is if for some reason that plastic sheeting were to tear and fall on the car as the clear is wet. If that happened, I'd be pretty upset. It's never happened to me though, and I did a pretty good job. Just used fence picket, air stapler, and then some tape as an extra precaution. Last night we masked off the underside of the hood, which is probably overkill. It's probably overkill, and the trunk. So today's plan is it's supposed to be about 75 high today, again tomorrow, and it's supposed to cool off on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, rain and in the 60s, high 50s, and then next weekend, much like this weekend, supposed to be, I mean, we're talking a week away, who knows with the weatherman, but it's supposed to be nice next weekend. So I have two choices here. First choice is what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to spray this with sealer under the hood and under the trunk only this morning. Sealer, base, clear. The tech sheet on the clear says 4 to 6 hours before you can tape it at 70 degrees. I got these hot halogen lights. I'm gonna aim at it, keep it warm. Man, I don't know what's going to happen with the clear. It's shop line. All I'm going to do is put one coat, one wet coat, call it good. If it dries enough before 6 o'clock, then I'm going to mask the underside here off, like I did the top, to prevent overspray. Flip it over, and now we're ready to paint the car. Well, I would seal it tonight, all these panels, the entire car, seal it with the reduced epoxy primer, and then let it sit overnight, come in tomorrow, base and clear. That's what I'm aiming for, but I'm not going to press the issue. If this clear doesn't dry by 6 o'clock tonight, then the paint job is going to be moved until next weekend, because I'm not going to paint in the rain. I'm not going to paint in 60-degree weather. I'm in no rush, so I'd rather wait. If the clear is dry, then we're painting the car tomorrow. If the clear is not dry, then we're going to paint it next week. Moved a lot of stuff out of here. Swept, blew it out, pressure washed it. Got it as clean as I could. Still going to do a little bit more plastic sheeting over these cabinets over here. But really, that's about it. So I'm going to start moving this stuff out of here. I'm going to put the car cover on the shell, push it out, move all these other panels out. I'm going to spray these just base and clear, no sealer. Sealer on the hood and trunk only. I'm going to use two different guns here. I'm going to see what the big deal is. 1.3 or 4, I believe. I think 1.4. SGK, the Vilbis. Then I have a brand new Purple Harbor Freight. So I'm going to use one for one panel and one for the other panel. see how the sealer sprays. That's going to determine what gun I'm going to use to seal the shell. I don't know, maybe the Purple Harbor Freight's better. Who knows? We'll find out. So what I'm going to do is start moving this stuff out. Mix my epoxy, let it sit for 30 minutes like it says. Wax and grease, start spraying. Stay tuned. All right, we're back, part 2. It's now 9:30, so an hour and a half to clean this place out. Get these parts cleaned up, get them set how I want them. Already waxed and greased everything twice. We blew this out last night, so it was relatively clean, but it still took some wax and grease. Got my lights set up, got one up on the ladder. So just trying to make do with what I got here, since I don't have a booth. But let's see what temperature we got. 64. Now, 20 minutes ago it was at 60, so it's definitely warming up. .66. Okay, that's good. See what the paint is at. So I mixed this 30 minutes ago, like the instructions say. It's at 62. Okay. I mixed up, what do we got? 6 ounces. 6 ounces of primer, 6 ounces of hardener, and then 4 ounces of reducer. So I didn't put quite 111. It's really, really thin. I mean, it's almost like base coat, which is good. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be trying 2 guns here. I got this DeVilbiss SGK. I used that on base one time. And then I got the most gangster epoxy gun here, the Purple Harbor Freight. 15 bucks, brand new, don't even got to clean it. Brand new cup. If anything, you throw the guns away, you keep the cups, because the cups fit a lot of guns, so that's a plus at least. Got it for 15 bucks, or 16. $16 even, plus I bought a little broom. So I'm going to be seeing what the big deal is. I'm going to spray, I don't know, either the hood and trunk. Let's just say I'm going to spray the hood with the Purple Harbor Freight. I'm going to spray the trunk with the other DeVille sealer. These parts I don't think I'm going to seal. I might. I don't know. It depends. I think I mixed entirely too much, but we'll see. I've never sprayed it, so I don't know what to expect. So I just mixed up enough, and if I need to mix more, I got a whole gallon. So these panels are serving as a test panel for the actual car, since I've never sprayed this reduced epoxy. It's a perfect opportunity for a test panel. Just want to see how it lays, how thick it is, what it covers. See if it covers this. If it covers this one coat, we're in business. Because there's nothing as dark on the actual shell or any of the outer panels as that. So if I can cover in one coat, we're in business. Now I did take this off last night, so this is going to have a hard edge. I didn't want a whole bunch of epoxy and clear overspray all over my outside of the trunk that's ready to paint. So it's probably overkill, but I took the extra step to mask it off. And it is going to have a hard edge here, but it's the underside of the trunk. I mean, if you have a hard edge here, you know, I don't think that's a huge deal. I wouldn't want a hard edge down the side of a quarter panel or a door jamb. So what I'm going to do is once we spray these and it dries, if it dries today, or you know, within a decent amount of time, reverse the tape and tape over here where it's painted, and then when I flip it over to spray the top side, I can get under it to get this. Not a big deal. Not really a hard edge here so much, maybe just a little bit. Again, the side of the trunk. Whatever. But I think we're about ready to rock and roll. The stuff has been inducing for 30 minutes like it says, probably like 45 now. This thing has a pot life of like 120 hours. So it can stay out here for days. But we got the gray SPI epoxy, SPI reducer, SPI activator. 1 to 1 to 1, using it as a sealer. Unfortunately, I don't have a tripod that can record me doing this, so the best I can do is put you guys on pause, come back after it's sprayed. Stay tuned. Alright, part 3. Man, this stuff is super, super thin. It's nothing like spraying it unreduced. And I didn't quite reduce it 1 to 1 to 1. Super, super thin. I got some runs on the trunk. Harbor Freight on the hood, wouldn't use it. Just seemed like it wasn't kicking it out. I don't know. Didn't cover very much. Still breakthrough. It's going to need a second coat. The DeVille, much better. This is 1 coat. So you notice the difference between 1 coat Harbor Freight. A lot of breakthrough still. Same air pressure, you know, relatively the same fluid adjustment over there on the wall. Big difference in the way it sprays. This stuff really, the DeVille really slammed it on to the point that it was running. Really, really thin. Got a couple runs. Got a couple runs right here, but this is the first coat, so I learned a lot. When it comes to spraying the shell and the outer panels, I'm not going to reduce it as much. It does lay out nice and flat and levels out. I mean, that's, you know, if you spray base on top of this within a certain window, you don't have to sand anything. I believe it's 72 hours. So that came out nice and wet, nice and flat. Not a whole lot of texture. Not any texture at all, really, just on these flat panels. In between, got a little, you know, the camera's not going to pick it up because it's gray. But so I just did the hood and trunk. I did the valance, and I did the steering wheel and the dash bezel. This coated pretty good. 1 coat with the DeVille. There's a little breakthrough there. I think I'm going to knock down the air pressure. Spray it like it's a base at like 10. I think I was spraying it at like 15 psi, and that's probably why I got a run. But that's why I did these panels first. I mean, this is an experiment. Under the trunk is a perfect panel to experiment on. But I think the second coat, I'm going to crank it down 10 psi like a base coat. Use the DeVille, and I think we'll be good. Mixed up just enough paint. I got enough to. Might need a little more. In fact, I'll probably mix them up. But I'm going to do a second coat on all this. So when it comes to the shell, it's going to need 2 coats because it didn't conceal as much as I expected. So it's a lesson learned. It's nothing like spraying unreduced epoxy naturally. I mean, it's a lot thinner. When I spray the shell, I'm not going to reduce it as much. Stay tuned. All right, just laid down the second coat. Had a pretty big learning curve here. So you have to remember that you're spraying primer, but you're not spraying primer to cover any scratches or any filler. You're spraying primer just to cap off the area and make it uniform, and also, you know, prevent from any funky reactions or anything like that. So the first round, the first coat, I had the PSI at like, it was like 20. Mixed it, reduced it, pretty heavy. It was really thin. And since it's gray in the cup, my initial reaction was to slam it on like it's primer. That's not how you do it. I learned right away. Like I said, I got some runs. You need to crank it down to like 10 psi and spray it like a base, like dust it on. Not a little more than dust, a wet coat, but you're not priming, and I had to get over that. But the second coat covered everything I needed it to. I just sprayed it, so it's flashing off right now. Pretty much hit everything that I wanted it to. I mean, it's not 100% coated, but it's good enough. Steering wheel just needed one coat. This dash bezel here, I just finished spraying that. So, yeah, big learning curve, but that's okay because that's why I did this before I painted the car. Had I tried to slam it on at 20 psi like it was primer on the quarter panel, would have had a nasty run. It would have ruined my entire weekend. So, as you can see, the run that I had here, it kind of hit it. It kind of leveled out, and then a second coat kind of hit it. The run I had here, it leveled out okay, but it's exactly why I wanted to do this first. I'd never sprayed sealer of any kind. I've never had sprayed reduced epoxy. So take note of that. Spray it like a base, which I guess if I would have Googled, I probably would have learned that, but there's no better way to learn it than experiencing it yourself. But overall, looks good. So I'm going to let this sit for like 2 hours. Going to go ahead and clean the guns. Get the base in here. Start mixing base, and hopefully in about 2 hours, spray some base on this. Now, tonight when I primer, if it goes as I planned, primer the shell and the hood, the top sides and the doors and all that, seal them. I'm not going to spray base tonight. I'm going to wait till tomorrow morning. Let it completely flash off, level out, do whatever it's going to do. If it needs a little nib, I got some 800 grit to knock it out. But these panels, small stuff like this, I think, a couple hours and spray base and it'll be okay. I mean, worst case is if this fails, down the road, okay, take that off the car and paint it again. You can't take the quarter panel off the car and paint it again. So stay tuned here. I'm going to be spraying the base here in about 2 hours, and I should have a nice 20-minute video to watch later. All right, so cleaning my guns now while I'm waiting for the epoxy to dry. Yeah. Fresh out the box, brand new, bought it Wednesday. Took it out the box, put the cup on, ran some reducer through it. The reducer sprayed fine, or, dripped out fine. Go to put the sealer in, sprayed funky. Tried to adjust it, just I sprayed the hood, came out okay, super light coat. Then I switched guns and sprayed the trunk with the DeVille. It sprayed much better. I don't know what that stuff is. It's a brand new gun. Brand new, right out the box. It's got some sort of wax in there. Whose idea was that? It's unbelievable. Fresh out the box, it's got a shit ton of wax in it. Wow, that blows my mind. So, $15, get what you pay for. Alright, so I mixed me up a quarter base, shop line base, shop line reducer. Digging it. This is actually thicker than the sealer was. This is like twice as thick as the sealer was, so that's a good sign. Maybe it won't take more than 2 coats, man. I don't know. Sealer was really, really thin, man. It was like spraying reducer. So I got this mixed up here. I'm gonna stir it a little longer. Probably wait another half hour for this epoxy to flash off better. Still a little bit tacky to the touch, but not much. Only in the heavy spots. A lot of it's already dry to the touch. So it would have been about 2 hours since I sprayed the epoxy. And then we're going to shoot this base on here. Readjusted my light, so I got better light up here on the hood. And a little bit of... Alright, first coat of base. It's covering really good. That's only 1 coat. 2 might be enough, but I'm going to go ahead and do 3. That's a good indicator if it's going to take 3 coats for the car. Spraying it 10 psi at the cap, just like the tech sheet calls for. It's the first coat, so it says to let it flash for 10 minutes at 70 degrees. It's like 72, so I'm gonna go every 10 minutes. Had a little bug, had a little hair. Other than that, it's going smooth. Alright, so we got everything in. Well, this stuff was 2 coats because it's mainly flat. I don't even know why I sprayed that. That needs to be sprayed with the car in case it's a different shade. Glove box needs a little work. Must have missed that when it came to the filler. It's kind of funky. Actually, it needs a lot. Worry about that later. That can be done. I'm going to do that when I do the steering column. Trunk, 2 coat. It's kind of funky with these edges. It wasn't getting coverage, so I went 2 coats, and I went in all the weird edges, and then I did kind of like a drop coat where you just kind of mist it on so there's no striping. That's the run from the epoxy under it. But everything came out really nice, so 2 coats on a flat panel will cover. This is the hood. Again, a lot of funky edges or funky curves and angles, so that was a little tricky, but we got it all coated. Steering wheel's good. You can flip it back over. This was kind of weird to spray in here. I hit that, piled it on too much. Got a little bit of, I don't know what that is, but I'm going to sand it down with 800. Shoot a little bit more. I got a little bit more in the gun. And then we're going to spray the shop line clear on these parts. Stay tuned. Alright, got 2 coats of shop line clear. It's okay. Mix is 4 to 1. I like the high solid 1 to 1 better, but I mean, I got it to lay okay. Pretty flat. So this is 2 coats. 2 coats on this. Got a little bit of trash in it. Not too bad. 2 coats on this. 2 coats on the steering wheel with a little bit of touch up. And then 2 coats on this bezel. Got a little bit of peel on it, but it's just an awkward piece to spray, man, really. I mean, I wish I could take it apart and spray it separate, but it's like seamed together. But I mean, it's inside the car. This is under, all this is just underneath, stuff you really don't see. Like the valance, you don't really see. You do see this. That was a hair that fell. I should have been wearing long sleeve. When I spray the car, I definitely will wear a long sleeve. Might fix that. I don't know. I'm going to try and rub it out once it dries. If I have to repaint, it's not that big of a deal. I have a bunch of paint. Probably going to have way more than I need. But so I'm just going to let this dry for about 4 hours. Take the tape off, see how it is, if I can tape it around 7 o'clock tonight, and then spray sealer on everything else, let the sealer sit overnight. That's the plan. But it all depends on how this clear cures up. If not, then I'll just paint the car on Monday, but we'll cross that bridge. But the run from the sealer is still there. But that's not a big deal. I mean, you don't even see that really when you open in the trunk because it's up under it. But the clear laid pretty good. Use the Iwata LPH 400, 10 psi on the cap, 2 threads on the fluid, 2 wet coats heavy. No runs on the clear. That's pretty good. That's the first time. Well, I wouldn't say the first time, but I'm definitely pretty excited that I didn't get any runs on this. Stay tuned.